Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my review of Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This one came out in 1994. It's starring Heather Langenkamp, Robert Englund, and Miko Hughes, and was written and directed by the legend himself, Mr. Wes Craven. You can tell I'm in a better mood. Last two times I talked about Freddy, man, wasn't in a very good mood. That has totally changed now. I'll first get into this. I guess I kind of spoiled what I think about this movie, but I'll say this. When I sat down to watch this movie for the first time, this is the first time I've ever watched this movie. You know, previous in my horror fandom, I've told the story multiple times. It's not really a story, but more just my experience with the franchise. I really only stuck with the first three, man. That's all I was really interested in seeing. Especially even as a little kid, I dipped my toe in the part 4 once. Liked it okay. You know, I think it's a cool movie, but I really only stuck with the first three. And you know, my opinion is still pretty much there, but you know, I didn't really venture out any further into the franchise past 4. And I think I may have watched part 5 once when I was like real little. But the point I'm trying to make is, you know, I obviously had knowledge of the other entries in the franchise, just doing research and falling into those YouTube pitfalls of rankings and people reviewing movies. What a fucking dork, right? Reviewing movies. Anyways. So I had knowledge of what Wes Craven's New Nightmare was. And to be honest, as I was younger and just becoming older, just not really watching it, but the concept kind of put me off a little bit. You know, I was kind of like, I'm not sure how that's going to work. I don't know if I want to waste my time, which after the last 2 entries, fuck, man. You can give me anything and I'll probably like it more than that. Those 2 pieces of shit. But anyways, man, I just never really gave it a chance. I wasn't assuming that I was just gonna fucking hate it, you know, but I've heard good things and I've heard bad things. So I really didn't, and I don't let other people's opinion really affect my own, but I wasn't sure, you know, and that combined with growing older and just exploring different avenues in horror and living a real life, I just never got around to fucking watching it. And so I finally, a couple nights ago, I got to sit down, took some notes, watched the movie, digested it, and I gotta say, while there are some aspects of the movie that don't quite work for me, I fucking still really liked this. I thought that this was an incredibly solid entry to the series that does so many things so well to me. You know, like I said, some stuff doesn't really work for me too much, but the stuff that does, they fucking nail it, dude. Number one, this film pays so much pays so much love to the original in the form of just, you know, cameos and just certain things that I won't spoil in the spoiler-free section that happen in the movie, and just all of this different cool shit that pays so much love to part 1. It also does a really, really good job at commenting on where the series is before New Nightmare. Like, the series as a whole, it's basically Wes Craven going, what the fuck happened? You know, just what the fuck, man? Like, where are we at with this series? Freddy isn't fucking scary anymore. The story just doesn't make any fucking sense anymore. It's, you know, the series just became a fucking cash grab. And it sucks to say that, but... And Wes Craven took this concept that he had all the way back until part 3. And he finally got to fucking do it. And this is a risky concept, dude. It's a concept that I think was a little bit ahead of its time. But I don't I don't think it's executed poorly. I just think he overshot a little bit. And that's all respect, that's all love. But I gotta say, man, for the most part, dude, I think everyone fucking knocked this out of the park, man. I had a really, really fucking good time with this movie, dude. I think all the performances are great. Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. Freddy is Freddy again, which is ironic considering the direction that this movie goes in. But come on, Freddy Krueger is fucking Freddy Krueger again, dude. He's scary as shit in this one, man. And I don't consider that to be a spoiler, but he's just so damn good. Even in the bad ones, there's something to love about Freddy. You know, Freddy's dead. But even like the Dream Child, there's always something to love about Freddy Krueger. And in this one, man, he got to be fucking terrifying again. You know, he has a couple one-liners here and there, but it's all meant to disturb. It's all meant to terrify. It's all meant to be a fucking horror villain, which I love. It's awesome, man. It's awesome to see Robert Englund being able to do that after the previous two shitstorms. It's fucking great, man. He is great. Heather Langenkamp, dude, Heather Langenkamp's one of the best final girls ever. Or like final girl actresses ever. And dude, she knocks it out of the park, man. Miko Hughes does a fucking great job in this movie. The little kid from Pet Sematary. One of the better child actors back then, man. He's fucking really cool. You know, cute kid. You're obviously rooting for him. You kind of have the knowledge that they're not gonna kill off a kid. But like, you're still worried about him, man. And just all of the key players in this movie do a fucking fantastic job, dude. I really don't have anything else to say without spoiling the shit out of this, man. Just know, I really, really like this movie, dude. I absolutely 100% recommend it. Sit down and just enjoy the ride. It's fucking crazy. It's out there. It's wild. And it's awesome, man. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's hop into the spoiler section and let's spoil the shit out of this motherfucker. Alright, spoiler time, baby. Your ass has been warned. Now, let's just hop right into this right here. And if you're wondering, no, I am not reviewing Under the Influence. A little cream soda action there. No, I am not sponsored by Fitz. Fitz, if you're watching this, feel free. I could use a little dough. But anyways, so we open with a pretty cool little opening just scene of, it's pretty reminiscent of previous Nightmare movies. You know, you get the creepy boiler room and you see someone who you believe to be is Freddy Krueger constructing a glove, but it's not a glove, it's like a robot fucking hand, which is pretty cool looking. And which is funny because on a lot of the posters for the movie, it's shown Freddy having that hand, not the like organic thing that he has in the rest of the movie. But so, you know, at the end it's a robot hand, it's not really a glove, so this Freddy stand-in just slices off his hand and you're like, holy shit. And then, you know, you hear a cut. And then it is revealed that this is all just a movie set. And we have Heather Langenkamp, who, like I said, does an amazing job. And she plays Heather Langenkamp. That's right. This movie is set in the real world, which was cool. Again, the concept is totally out there. Wes Craven is Wes Craven. Robert Shea has a fucking moment in this movie with Heather. And a lot of people play themselves, which I thought was really, really cool. But, you know, she's on set. She is married to a special effects guy named Chase. and they have a little boy, a little boy played by Miko Harris, who's Dylan. And so she has her own little family. They're on this movie set, and this fucking robot hand that the FX guys are doing is like starting to fucking tweak out. And you're like, what the fuck? And all of a sudden, this thing just springs into fucking action, and a great looking kill, man, just stabs this dude right in the throat. He's like, chases two like buddies, and they're fucking. I mean, they're not his buddies; they're his coworkers. They're FX guys, and they both get killed by the claw. And as soon as the claw robot thing goes for Chase, Nancy wakes up. Not Nancy. See, there I fucking go. I was afraid I was gonna do this. Heather wakes up. It's so fucking difficult to like. I mean, I know, but like it's hard to think of her as just Heather Langenkamp. It's Nancy, man. Come on. But anyways, so we awaken to the real world, and then an earthquake is going down, which is like fucking wild for this series. The house is shaking and shit, as an earthquake does. And they go into Dylan's room, young Nico Hughes, who's freaking out because there's a fucking earthquake going on. And yeah, man, and one thing I forgot to mention was the claws cut Chase. They cut his fingers open. And when they're in the real world now, Heather notices that Chase's hand is bleeding. And she's like, where'd you get that? He's like, oh, I probably sliced it in the earthquake. No big deal. So, Chase goes off to a job, and Heather is there with Miko is there with Dylan, and fucking the babysitter pulls up, and then we learn at some point during all of this that she is being pursued by a stalker. So we get this fucking creep calling her, and he's like, 1, 2, Freddy, come, yada yada yada. And it kind of portrays like when you're in these horror movies, as people don't like to admit this, but people get fucking fanatic, and I consider myself to be a horror fanatic. Like, I love this shit. You can see all this shit in the back of the, whatever you want to call this, the set. It's just my office, but I fucking love this shit. But some people go too fucking far, man. And I like that idea, that idea is very subtly explored. Like, what do these actors and actresses deal with, once the series just blows up and they're a fucking star, they're a celebrity, whether they like it or not. And obviously when you get into acting, that's, part of it, and you kind of expect that. But some of these actors and actresses, man, they go through some shit, dude. It's not pretty sometimes. And I like that was subtly explored. It's not really the main component of the movie, but I thought it was nice. But yeah, man, so she is going off to an interview. Julie, who is Dylan's babysitter, is watching him. Really, really cool character there. I really liked her a lot. And so, Heather goes off. Also, some shit's going weird with Dylan, He's starting to kind of tweak out a little bit, man. At one point, he's watching the Nightmare movie, and the original Nightmare movie, and when she turns it off, he just starts screaming and shit. It's like, what the fuck? It's just insane shit, dude. Insane stuff is already going on in this movie. So she goes to this interview, and she has been presented with an offer to star in the new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Now, being the continuity nerd that I am, son of a bitch. And the gassy continuity nerd at that. I thought that was weird. Because, and this is Bob Shaye's little scene here. Robert Shaye, whatever. He outright says, like, you're the star of this movie. Where they acknowledge the entire series. Like, they talk about Freddy's dead. Oh, you shouldn't have killed off Freddy. Like, they acknowledge that the entire series exists. So when he says like, "Oh, you're gonna star in this movie," I imagine, and of course, this is a hypothetical film. It's not a real movie, but it's like Nancy died in the third one. So what the fuck? What the fuck? You know? Maybe that was just a little oversight. Whatever, whatever. Maybe they were gonna do some weird, corny, bringing her back shit. I don't know. And obviously, I'm talking about a movie that doesn't exist. So, anyways, so she is not too keen on appearing in the film. You know, she's like, I don't know. Fucking, she has a kid now and shit, and she's getting all this stalker bullshit going on. She's like, I really don't know if I can do it. You know, so she denies it at first. She's like, nah, I will pass. We get her on a talk show, and that's where we first get Freddie, like just Robert Englund, who plays Robert Englund playing Freddie in the movie. And you know, and again, we get some of that subtle commentary on where the Freddy Krueger character is at. He's a cartoon character. You know, he's running around. You know, he's like little kids are eating this shit up, man. Freddy's not scary. He's not. He's Uncle Freddy. He's just this fun-loving child murderer, you know, just running around with claws. And I thought that the decision to do that and have that little talk show scene where it's very clearly conveyed, like Freddy is just Hulk Hogan. Freddy is, you know, Hulk Hogan with a burnt face and a fucking fedora. He's an icon, you know. Kids love him. There's a scene of Robert Englund signing autographs with little itty bitty kids with Freddy masks on. They have their little plastic claws, and he's just a joke, you know. And for better or for worse, he's not scary to people at all. Which, when we get the Freddy in this movie, which is completely contrast to that, I thought it worked really well. I thought it was really cool. So Robert Englund, you know, we get him in this movie, and he does fantastic as himself. That's a big nod when you're a fucking actor and you can play yourself. That's gotta be a mind fuck, man. That's gotta be such a weird idea. It's like, I'm just gonna be me. It's gotta kind of fuck with you a little bit. You're like, okay. When you're getting dialogue written for you, but it's you, and like when I talk like that, you know, and that's the thing, man. This concept is so cool. I know I keep ragging on it. Not ragging on it, but I'm sitting here bitching about being gassy. I'm drinking soda. So we then get into more Freddy. You know, Freddy's still kind of fucking with Heather Langenkamp. And it's getting worse. You know, Dylan's getting... I keep wanting to call him Miko. Dylan's getting worse. He's not getting better. He's having seizures and shit. Just all this wild stuff is happening to her. And she eventually, you know, she calls Robert Englund, who has also been having struggles with like dealing with Freddy Krueger, which I really wish we would have gotten a little more exploration on that. I love the storyline with Heather Langenkamp. I'm not taking anything away from it, but I thought it would have been really interesting to see Robert Englund being terrorized by Freddy Krueger, or as we come to find out, this demon that has inhabited the body and the likeness of Freddy Krueger. And how fucking weird that has to be for him, you know? And we really don't get that. We see that he's being affected by it. He does this really fucking cool looking painting, and, you know, he's talking to Nancy, and she eventually finds out that Wes Craven is kind of writing this fucking warped script, and this is where the concept of having it be in the real world, this is where it kind of gets a little wishy-washy for me, and I'm not very fond of it. So she goes to Wes Craven's house and is like, what the fuck's going on, dude? Like, what's the deal here, man? And we go into this weird exposition where he reveals that, you know, he's basing this new script off of his own nightmares, and this demonic entity has inhabited the body and the likeness of Freddy Krueger, which that in and of itself, I fucking love that idea. I love the idea of this being based in the real world, and this demonic entity has inhabited the likeness of Freddy Krueger and is haunting Heather Langenkamp is haunting Heather Langenkamp, haunting Wes Craven, haunting Robert Englund, and it's this monster that they kind of created. I fucking really think that's a cool idea, and I think most of this movie could have stayed the exact same, and you just had to leave out this weird script shit. There's just, he's saying like you have to play Nancy because Nancy was the first one to defeat Freddy Krueger, which, yeah, but the character carried on well after Nancy's death. I mean, if we're acknowledging the whole series here, come on. So I didn't really get why it had to be Heather. I mean, it's just weird, and like we get this reveal that like this script is being typed out as they're talking, so like the dialogue, like they're living a movie. That I didn't like it, man. I thought they could have just stuck to this demon is trying to enter the real world as Freddy Krueger and wreak havoc. And I keep wanting to call him fucking Miko. Dylan's little stuffed dinosaur. He's trying to do it through Dylan. Like he's trying to get through to the real world through Dylan. And Dylan, using kind of that Dream Warriors-esque power there, is like claiming that Rex, this little stuffed, dinosaur that he has, is his guard. And it's kind of the thing that's keeping Freddy at bay, so he can't enter the real world. And, eventually it's, in a climax, he ends up, shredding Rex, and he gets to the real world, and yada, yada, yada. But I really like that idea. I just think it's bogged down and it's overcomplicated with the script part of it. But hey, man, it's there. Like I said, not a big fan of it. But what I am a big fan of is Robert Englund once again playing a kick-ass Freddy Krueger. Wes Craven took the character of Freddy Krueger and just pumped him full of fucking steroids. Not literally like fucking Super Freddy. We don't have to talk about that. But he made him fucking frightening again. I love the look of Freddy in this. I still prefer the original look with the glove and yada yada yada, but there's something to be said about his makeup design. Like he looks more split open from the burns, and like you can see this flesh under the flesh, and like it's so wild looking. Like it still looks like Freddy Krueger. Like if I showed you a picture of it, you'd still be like, oh yeah, it's Freddy Krueger. Even without the fedora and shit, you'd be like, oh yeah, Freddy. That's partly partly because Robert Englund has such a distinctive face. So when you put that makeup on him, you're like, of course. But not only that, man, I love the trench coat. I thought that was a really, really cool addition to this kind of demonic version of Freddy Krueger. And probably the most wild element about this new Freddy is the fact that he no longer has a glove. It's not a glove. It's like this organic fucking thing that it has bones and muscles on it and shit, and it comes into these claws. And he doesn't just have the 4, he also has a 5th one on his thumb, which I thought was really, really wild. And I was like, man, I fucking, as a kid, I didn't know how I felt about it because I thought it deviated way too much. But looking at it now, I'm like, that's fucking pretty cool. I'm not going to lie, man. I still prefer the original concept of Freddy, but I still really, really like this. But yeah, man, I know I'm bouncing all over the place, man, but this is this movie's fucking wild. So I like the decision to make this a slow burn and not having Freddy show up. I know it's not technically Freddy. It's Freddy. Whatever. Fuck it. I like the decision to not have Freddy show up. He doesn't show up for like an hour. I mean, we get like, he's there, obviously. Like you get little glimpses maybe here and there, little illusions, and it's so obvious that it's him. But like when we finally get that first scene where he just comes out of the shadows and he's just like, miss me. And he he fucking he gets in a little fight with Heather there for a second, and it's just so cool. And it, again, this is one of those situations where I know I bitch a lot about the rules of the Nightmare franchise and how the dream world and the real world works and yada yada yada. In this case, I didn't necessarily mind it. I didn't mind having Freddy Krueger starting to tear his way into reality through Dylan. As his guard, Rex, gets weakened, Freddy's able to tear the fabric of reality more. I don't mind that. It's, for this narrative, it works, because it's, that real world and this otherworldly fiction thing. I thought it worked, man. I didn't mind it here at all. There's some things, like there's another driving sequence where the guy falls asleep. And it's not nearly as egregious as it was in, I think it was part 5. It's not nearly as bad as that, but that's still kind of, there's like little things where I'm like, but fuck it, it's very much, I consider it to be on par with like a part 1 or a part 2 where you're like, okay, fine, whatever, fuck it. But yeah, man, so this third act is just fucking wild. We get Freddy, we know he's here. Dylan ends up going to a hospital, and they're trying to put him under. They're trying to put him to sleep just so he can get some rest, and they could run tests on him, and yada, yada, yada. And Heather's like, don't fucking do that. Like, stop. And she has to leave and go get Rex so Miko can basically have him as a guard so this demon doesn't tear his way into the real fucking world. And we get Julie being a fucking badass and is willing to... I didn't even mention the fact that fucking Chase dies like pretty quick. He dies very, very quickly in this movie. He goes off and, is coming back when he realizes Heather's in trouble, and then falls asleep at the wheel, and Freddy does his thing, which we will get into that later on. But yeah, man, so Julie is being a badass. These nurses are dicks, dude. Like, they immediately rubbed me the wrong way. They sneak up on Nico to give him this fucking shot and put him to sleep. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, that's so fucked up. It's so weird. Like, why are you so sinister about it, And even the main, doctor chick, who does a fantastic job, by the way. She's awesome in this. But she's so, just, I don't know, there's this weird, sinister tone to her. I'm like, what the fuck is your problem? You're almost as scary as Freddy, for Christ's sake. But again, awesome. And she kind of serves, in the little light research that I do for these movies, she kind of served as a representation of the MPAA. And, just very sensitive, bitch-ass people. You shouldn't be showing your children this, what do you mean? You shouldn't be fucking little... And, because that's how they talk, right? Just gibberish. But, I mean, to me, that's what it sounds like, because fuck off, horror rules. Obviously, if your kid can't handle it, don't show them it. But if they fucking like it, and they're not having nightmares like fucking Dylan here, fuck it. I turned out okay. But anyways, but yeah, man. So we get this awesome last act here. Julie's trying to protect Dylan. Dylan kind of falls asleep. And then now Freddy's really starting to get into the real world. He's able to kill Julie while she's fully awake. And, she doesn't see him, but he stabs her in the back. And, yeah, we get a pretty cool nod to part 1 there. So Dylan eventually sleepwalks out of the hospital, and we get a fucking scene on the highway, dude. That shit was nuts. Just seeing this little kid, and he gets picked up by fucking Freddy's claw, and he's just dangling there, which had to be crazy for the people driving. First of all, you're like, oh shit, there's this kid in the middle of the fucking freeway. And he's just dangling there. And all of a sudden, he just flies up. He's just dangling there. Like, if I was fucking driving and I saw that, I would, I mean, I don't even know what I would do. I'd probably speed up and just fucking book it, to be honest. But that's a hell of a story to get home and tell your fucking wife or husband or kid or whatever. You're like, yeah, I just saw some kid just flying in the fucking freeway. But anyways, so we get that, and eventually she makes her way back to the house, and again we get some more weird shit. John Saxon's in this movie, by the way. I didn't even mention that. Whoopsies. But yeah, he is in this movie, and he's kind of mentoring Heather Langenkamp throughout this whole thing, trying to reassure her it's fine, Freddy's not alive, he's not real, yada yada yada. And yeah, so we get to the house, and all of a sudden, as Freddy Krueger, now he's in the real world. He has, in a great illusion of part one, he comes up from the sheets and he just pokes a hole in it and just rips out of the sheet, and Freddy is fucking here. And as he does that, again, the weird script aspect of the movie, he you know, John Saxon just starts playing Donald Thompson, his character from the Nightmare movies, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, why isn't, if that's the case, why isn't Heather under the influence of this new reality, basically? Like, why is, like, I didn't, again, man, it just doesn't work for me. But what did work for me was this final fucking battle. So, Heather goes in a great, one of the cool, I think one of the cool, really cool moments of this movie. This whole movie is full of cool moments, but one of the really cool moments was where she turns around as John Saxon drives away. She turns around and it's just the fucking Nightmare house all of a sudden, which I thought that was really cool. When she goes in there, the interior is not that at all. It's still just her house. But that little moment of her running into the OG Nightmare house was a really, really cool moment. Again, fan service that is integral to the plot and makes sense to be there. I fucking love it. I don't just want to see random shit to make me pop. Like, I want everything that makes sense. I want to be like, oh my god, that's the thing from the thing, but I want it to all make sense. And this movie does that fucking awesome. But yeah, man, so she runs into the house and we get her final battle. She goes down this admittedly pretty fun looking slide when you first see it, but then you're like, oh fuck, the rug burn. And then it goes to like a sewer thing, and she is basically in hell. At the end of this slide, she is transported to hell, falls in this fountain. We get a really, really cool final battle here, man. This is like, it by far and away beats the shit out of the battle in the first one. Like, I appreciate it for what it is. I'm not dogging on it too hard, but I'm just like, this fucking kicked ass. Heather Langenkamp is a fucking badass, man. She's awesome. Getting to see this new Freddy be terrifying and spout off all this kind of smart ass but super sinister dialogue. It just worked for me, man. This whole movie, it just worked for me. I really, really liked it. But yeah, man, so we get, it eventually leads to Dylan basically saving his mom's life. Like, Freddy's about to fucking do her in. Dylan stabs him in the leg with a knife, runs off, and he chases him into an oven. You know, Dylan's kind of avoiding the claw, but Freddy has that long, stretchy arm, which I thought was a really cool throwback to the original as well. And he's like just about to get him, he grabs him, and he like dislocates his jaw. Freddy does, not Dylan, but dislocates his jaw and like has half of his fucking head in his mouth, and Nancy's trying to get up before Freddy can take a bite out of this kid like a fucking apple. and she's trying to fucking climb up there, and we get another callback with the stairs turning into goop or quicksand, goop. And so she barely makes it, but she's able to stop him, stabs him in the back with a knife. I think it's a knife. Yeah. So we get that, and they eventually kick his ass in the oven, turn it on high, and bake that motherfucker. And we get to see the true form of this demon. It's a really cool looking demon too, all like the long ears and the fucking grungy looking face. Awesome. He blows up, and then we get this ending, which was kind of crazy. Like, it kind of came out of nowhere for me. Not completely out of nowhere, but they're back. The real world is the real world again. And Nancy reads the script, or not Nancy, fuck. I'm sure I called her Nancy a couple times talking about that final battle too. Whoopsies. Heather talks to Dylan a little bit, and then reads him the script. And we get a little note from Wes Craven saying like, hey, thank you for playing Nancy one more time. Freddy's back where he belongs, yada yada yada. And then she reads the script to Dylan, which is like, I imagine it's a pretty fucked up script. I don't know, after everything you guys just went through, why would you want to reminisce on it? But whatever. But yeah, man, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, dude. I really, really like this movie, dude. Like I said, not perfect, but this gets a stamp of approval for me. I fucking really enjoyed this movie, dude. Such a brave concept to be explored. Explored perfectly, no. But I think they could have done a much, much worse job. And Wes Craven and the crew and the actors and actresses and all that shit, man, they knocked it out of the park. I fucking really, really like this movie. I 100% recommend you go out and watch it. Especially if you're a fan of the Nightmare franchise. If you're a fan of the Nightmare franchise, I imagine you have seen it. But if you're like me and you were just kind of like, I don't know, go watch it, man. It's fucking awesome. But yeah, with that being said, that will do it for the review portion of the film. But you know what we gotta do, baby. We gotta get into the blood, the guts, and the gory bits. We gotta get into my kill of the film. Stick around. Wes Craven's New Nightmare does a very, very good job at exploring a very bold new concept for this series. It goes in a very, very different direction, and I think it's all the better for it. One thing that kind of surprised me about this, though, with as evil as this like demon Freddy is, and how sinister and all that, we really don't get a lot of kills in this movie. There's really not a lot. But the good news is that I'm counting 5. And they're all, again, it's a 2-hour movie, so 5's not a lot. What we do get, though, man, I fucking really like it, dude. I think all of these kills are fucking awesome. Probably the weakest would be the second stage hand to die, or effects hand, or whatever you want to call him, to die, and it is a kill, because Chase later confirms, like, yeah, those two didn't show up for work today. It's because they got killed in the Nightmare. Him getting just kind of poked in the chest. I know they were trying to make it look like the robot hand like stabbed the shit out of him or whatever, but it really was just kind of like needling him a little bit. That was a little weak, but we got a lot of blood, which was cool. But that first guy to go, man, getting those claws right in the fucking neck, dude. I was like, oh my God, it's awesome. What a fucking way to open up your movie. Just a guy getting just necked. Great shit. Chase's death was really, really fucking good. I'm never a fan of the whole falling asleep at the wheel and just being able to hold it there forever. But it didn't really last too long there. And I'm still not a huge fan of that aspect of it, but it makes a little more sense here. So yeah, Freddy's like claws kind of come out of the seat, and it looks like he's about to neuter this fucker. Then he comes back down and then goes for his fucking chest and just rips down his chest, and it's bloody as shit. And he he ends up, you know, crashing his car, and we see the after effects where Heather goes to the morgue to verify the body and yada yada. And yeah, dude, this dude just got ripped fucking basically neck to, you know, stomach. Man, it was brutal. Brutal stuff. Looked awesome. Freddy dying at the end, this demon entity Freddy thing. His head blowing, his whole body fucking blowing up pretty much, I thought was really, really cool. But for me, man, easily kill of the film goes to Julie, who we get an awesome throwback to part one. Easily my favorite throwback to part one, where the entity Freddy Krueger stabs her in the fucking back, lifts her up, and we get a great callback to that first kill in part one, with her just flailing all over the ceiling. Could have used a lot more blood, to be totally honest, but it still beats that. We got plenty of the red stuff, and just seeing that again, that iconic kill, it just works for me, man. I thought it was really, really, really cool. But yeah, man, that'll do it for Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Absolutely go out of your way to check this one out, man. It's a fucking awesome film. I'm not going to be covering Freddy vs. Jason, because if you remember, when I reviewed the Friday the 13th franchise, I already covered that. So in the meantime, while you're waiting for the next video, if you want to go over there, go on the channel and check out the Freddy vs. Jason review, absolutely feel free. There's really no need for me to go over it again. Talked about all the stuff, all the Freddy stuff I would have talked about anyways, so there you go. But next time on Days of Darkness, we are actually going to be taking a break from the movie review stuff, and we are going to get into really looking forward to you guys seeing that. And yeah, man, without further ado, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and keep watching horror. All right, guys, have a good one.